where's the record? There we go.
There we
Hi,
go.
everybody. Me and Eileen were just chatting sort of nonchalantly. And it's funny when you said, which trauma do you talk about? When
Yes.
I did mine this morning, because I opened the whole event with, just welcome everybody and then talk about my trauma. But this morning I was like, which one do I choose? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've been through
What
so
menu?
much.
Let me just look at my menu.
Right. And I was talking to somebody the other day. I'm like, yeah, I don't even know which trauma to talk about. They're like, well, that's an interesting problem to have. I'm like, right. Let me see which trauma is more exciting that it's, I mean, imagine having that problem. So hi, everybody, and welcome to day one of From Hell to Happiness. This is interview number 4 today, and we are we're wrapping up today's day one with Eileen Scott from Australia. So this is a little bit late for me, and it's noon. She's already in Tuesday. You've already seen the full moon, and you've already done that.
Beautiful.
I haven't seen it yet. It hasn't crossed my garden yet.
It's amazing.
Thinking, as soon as we're done, I'm going outside. I'm going to put all my crystals outside and everything.
Good for you.
So it's tomorrow for Eileen in Australia, and it's still here, 8:00 Guatemala time. So thank you, Eileen, for joining us today. First of all,
my pleasure.
Eileen is going to be talking about, this is very interesting. She's going to be talking about the Black Saturday fires?
The Black Saturday fires, yeah.
Could you and how she's going to talk to us a little bit about going through that, and she had left with nothing. I guess you lost everything. And how you started over. So I'm literally just going to give you the floor. And if you could just actually bring us back to that day, because that was a long time when I vaguely remember that whole thing.
Sure.
And plus I'm on the other side of the world, right? So we don't
of course.
all the stories. So take us back to that actual day of the fires. And I'm just going to give you the floor. It's all yours.
Yeah. Thank you. So it was 2009. And I think, a lot of people probably in Australia or around the world would remember it as the day Victoria caught fire, because there was a deliberately lit fire, which was mine. And then there was obviously just natural bushfires that pretty much cost thousands of homes and hundreds of lives, lost livestock, horrendous. So there was a compounding grief that really rippled through Victoria and all of Australia. And I must say the human spirit of everyone rallying together was quite astounding.
Like that.
It really was. And it takes me back to, even though the trauma of the event, it just takes me back to community and how amazing community was to get us through. So this particular day, it was like, the typical Australian summers. I don't know what your weather is like over there, but here we get extreme cold and extreme heat, and our heat is dry. So we can get 40 degrees. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit.
I don't know. I do Celsius. Yeah, I do Celsius too. I don't know what Fahrenheit is.
Yeah. Hot. Okay. So 40 is a hot day, but this particular day, I think it was, they were peaking it at about 45 and high winds and, all the ingredients for a big bushfire day. And I had a 9-month-old at the time. My husband and I, well, he wasn't husband then, but partner at the time, he was over the other side of Melbourne working. And he had actually said to me the week prior, just pack some stuff up. Like, we're living in a bushy area. And I suppose looking back, I was so naive to what nature can be and do.
Right.
I was like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And then that particular day, you could feel something in there. And I must say, my dog, the night before, they always say for people that are that way inclined, my dog actually ran through the house, and he ran to every corner of the house barking, and like he was trying to already flee. So because ours was deliberately lit, I believe he sensed intention.
Wow, I believe that. Absolutely.
And it took me a long time to process that. Looking back, you've got to work through the trauma and stuff. But I actually thought he'd gone mad. I was like, what is wrong with this dog? But I believe he had sensed intention. So fast forward to that morning. Well, actually, the week before, there was a bit of divine intervention for myself and my daughter. The lady that lived down the property, a lovely lady, Rosita, she had, for some reason, listened to the calling to come and speak to me. We hadn't actually met. This was a week prior, and we were chatting, and she was saying she's often down there in her property on her own alone. So me being the good neighbour, I gave her my phone number and I said, look, if you ever need anything, please, ring me. We're here. We'll do anything for you, blah, blah, blah. Little did I know that act of kindness was going to come back, because fast forwarding to the Saturday morning, it was hot. We knew this, but I had a new baby. So I just closed all my curtains. I stayed in the house. I was like, right, I'm not going outside. I know this is one of those days. They were predicting bushfires and almost preempting where they could be through the state. And my earth angel, Melissa Felsen, who I had never met. I had never met this woman. She was coming down the road to see her mother and father, who was Zita, the lady I'd spoken to. When she came down, she saw the flames coming over the ridge, and she actually rang forward to her father and said, I think you need to go and look outside. So he went out and he immediately was like, here we go. This is on. He'd already fought a fire before, but this one he said was like something he would never fight a fire again after this one. Boulders going through the air, the whole bit. But when she pulled in the driveway, still unbeknownst to me, when she pulled in the driveway, he was unraveling his fire hose. He was like, this is on. We are in. This is coming our way. And he had said to his wife, get everything off the walls, because they had like nice paintings. Said everything off the walls, pack up what you need to go. And as she was running, she saw my phone number that I had given her a week before on her bench.
Right.
And she actually rang, and all I got, so you can imagine me, I'm a mom in my own little world. I got my 9-month-old there in the high chair. We could gaga. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call. The fire's coming. You've got to go.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what? And that was it. And I was like, oh my God. And then when Melissa came down the driveway to see her dad, because she couldn't turn around, she had to go in, he immediately said to her, get up to that house, because he saw my case. So there's a wife and baby up, there's a woman and baby up there. So I've had the phone call. I'm like, I don't know if anyone has ever experienced running on jelly legs. So your legs are jelly and you're still having to take action.
Wow.
And you're trying to run through your house with sheer terror. I actually had no saliva left in my mouth. My mouth was so dry, I had no saliva. And then next thing, Melissa and her mum bolted in my house. I didn't even know they were coming. They just bolted through my door. We grabbed my child, grabbed my dog, and I grabbed ridiculous things. I grabbed bath toys because I don't know. I mean, I was a mom. I was like, don't know about the passport. Actually, I think I did grab passports, but it was just such trauma brings such a different way of thinking that it wasn't even logical. None of it in that moment was logical. Right. And I remember though, I had to get to the car and turn the air conditioner on for my baby because the car had been sitting there in extreme heat all day. So I can't really remember what happened in between that gap. I've gone to the car, turned the air conditioner on full bore, bolted back into the house, grabbed the dog. I've grabbed a washing basket that was near the door. For why, I don't know. And then I put my daughter in the car, put my dog in the car, and she just screamed, follow me. And out we went out the driveway. My partner at the time, Andreas, was ringing. And as we got down my road, so horrifying for him, but the phone dropped out. And all he got out was, are you out of the house? Because he knew it was coming. Are you out of the house? And do you have our baby? And then the phone dropped out.
Oh my God. Oh, that poor guy.
So he was left hanging with that. And we just drove down the road. The flames were going behind us. Her dad was literally fighting the fire. And he had his mobile phone in his pocket. She drove me straight to her house, which was in town. I'd never met this woman before. I don't even think we knew each other's name till like hours later.
Oh my God.
And I walked in like this with my baby and, sat down, and then he was fighting the fire and he had his cat under one arm and he had boulders, like massive boulders coming through the air at him. and his wife must have rung him, and he said, and I'll never forget this, the house up the top has just exploded.
Oh my God.
So I was like, has he just said my house has exploded? Like, he's like, the windows are exploding. It's full of flame.
It
gone
exploded
from the intense heat.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was so crazy.
Oh my God, Eileen.
It was beyond. And I tell you, we weren't allowed to go back. We had loss of life on our road, and we had houses. It was cruel. It was ironically cruel, because we had some houses stay, like the wind just swirled around a whole house and it was just there. And then our house annihilated, another house annihilated, then another house just not even singed, not even touched.
What? Wow. How does that even happen? That's crazy.
Nature at its fury, nature at its absolute fury. And when we were finally allowed back, because we had loss of life on the road, the police had to go in and do everything. We could not find our driveway or our house where it had been. We could not, because it was like a black that it will be etched in my soul forever, the black of that image. We couldn't actually see where our house had been.
Wow, that must have been like a punch in like the stomach, like just like a whole big gaping hole in your heart.
It was, because it was it's tragic for anyone that even loses a house, like say in a normal house fire.
Sure.
But to actually have the collectiveness of it, it was just so compounding. It was so grappling. You actually couldn't take it in.
I bet.
You know, and it wasn't until little things, which were big things, would happen. Like, I don't have a cot. I don't have a cot for my baby. Right. I don't have a bottle. I don't have all these things that you would just have. I don't have a jumper. You know, all these things that you realize that people take for granted, or anyway. So then
nothing.
We had nothing.
Oh my God.
Nothing
Wow.
at all.
So how old? So you just had the one baby, and how old were you? This happened.
So 2009. So what's that? 10, 15. So I was in my 30s.
So you're just okay. So like a young family, young mom,
young family, young mom. And then it just ripped the community apart. You know, you had situations where husband and wives have been living out on a property, happily married for 50 years, and then this trauma's come through. She doesn't want to go back out there, but he wants to rebuild. You know, I see even in my life, the fires not only took that day, it kept taking in different ways. Wow. And my ex-husband and I now are not together. And I do believe, not all, but you learn a stress response when you're in trauma. Everyone can appreciate that, and everyone can relate to that has had trauma. And I feel, one, he wasn't there on the day, and he felt as a man he wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And then what I went through, just through the post-traumatic stress of anytime I smell fire, even now, I have to go and check my stove when we leave. So many times my kids find it hilarious, and I haven't even used it. Like, so there's this ongoing ripple effect of what, and even years and years later, you remember what you've lost, what you actually lost in the fire, your items. It's quite.
So what? Like, that's crazy. I'm like practically speechless. I don't even know what to say now. But like, so how did the rebuilding? I'm sorry. First of all, I'm sorry for that. So how did the rebuilding, like, what did the rebuilding, you had to rebuild your entire life. What did that look like? Like, how did you even start?
It was challenging because we didn't have a home. So people wanted to give us everything. We had nowhere to put it. The kindness of the community was amazing, and I will cherish that for the rest of my life. But if I can give an example, so people would give you all these baby clothes, but you don't have a washing machine to wash it. So it was very overwhelming. And the level of what people wanted to give was very overwhelming as well. So where someone might just give you, because we had a baby, you know, a tin of formula, we got crates of it given. So it was very extreme, which was wonderful, but we just didn't know what we needed. We didn't actually know what we needed first. We had no idea how to put one foot in front of the other. they had a relief centre there in Traralgon and I remember this was a poignant moment where it started to sink in what had happened for us, because I'm very much into wildlife and saving wildlife. And I went to this relief centre and I walked up to the lady and I said, where can I help the wildlife? And she said, oh my God, that's wonderful. Have you got property like that where you can house them? And I go, no, I've lost everything, but I need to know where I can. And she went, no, you're in the wrong area. You've got to be over there. You're not here. No, you've lost everything. You're in the emergency area over here. And I was like, oh my God, okay. All right. So that was like a bit of a moment where I was still trying to help and give, but I just knew that we were sinking into something that was a rippling, ongoing effect.
I think I would think that you would probably still operate it out of a shock response for quite a while.
I remember this was probably 6 months on, and I tell this story to my clients when I feel it's of purpose to them. I remember going to the supermarket, and this happened, it became a joke. I would go to the supermarket and come home with nothing. Like I literally would come because I was so stressed and traumatized. I'd just go there and don't know what I'm doing. It's like trauma is like a washing machine. It's like you're in a washing machine going round and round and round. But this day I was I'm like, right, I am going to actually get something for dinner tonight. So I went to the supermarket. I don't know what I bought. I was in the car on the way home, and my daughter was going wee in the back seat, and I've turned around and looked at her, and I hadn't strapped her in. She's standing up in her baby seat going, and I've gone, I am not in the right place here. And I've grabbed the steering wheel, and I've gone, this is trauma. This is absolute trauma. Went into the driveway, like just took a moment. And I thought, no, this is really. And I remember walking. So what I used to do, and it's probably good that I had a baby, because I would get up and I had to go and feed her. I had to change her. So you had to go through the motions of the day. Right. And as the reality hit, there's people the news reporters were coming, they wanted to take photos, they wanted to interview, and then you had to get emergency funding. Obviously, all these processes were starting, but my just getting up every day process was just starting. So I would get up, and I made a promise to myself, and I think all ladies and anyone can relate to this or use it. And I gave myself 10 minutes to cry. I gave myself 10 minutes to cry, to feel, to grapple. And then I went, right, you do not now come into this space with my daughter. So I would try and play with her and engage her and do that. So, and then the next morning I would get up, I would cry, I'd sob, I'd go, oh, how's this happened? What do we do from here? And then again, and that was my process. I remember walking one day, and the fear of, I think, you have your shock, then you have your fear, and you start processing the grief. But I remember walking and thinking to myself, I feel like courage and my immortality met that day. Right. They met that day. Mm-hmm. And anywhere you go from there is up.
Absolutely. I love how you allowed yourself you allowed yourself a window of grief. This is my window. Yes. This is how much time you have to grieve. Once that timer is done, you're done. Carry on. Done. And I love that. That's amazing, because so many people get wrapped up in their grief, and it's hard to get out of that dark hole, and woe is me. And you got it. I mean, it's okay to grieve. And I love that you made a point about that. You have to grieve. You have to grieve, but you got to get out of there. You can't stay there. And I love that.
You need the respite. You need the respite. And I learned that early, and it was interesting because I went on and did lifeline crisis counseling after that. That was my coming forward out of it too. And not straight away, but over time I was like, this is, how much longer have I got here? What is my purpose? That sort of thing kicked in as well. And I went and did lifeline training, and it was amazing to be able to teach or share my process that I learned through full trauma. So I haven't read it from a book. I haven't, heard it from somewhere. I've lived it and knew what worked for me. Right. And it was that respite in that moment to whatever you're dealing with, whether it's grief, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's whatever it is, to recognize that we can control that.
Yeah.
We actually can control that by sectioning it and going, yes, that's what I'm going to do there. I give myself that. And then I must find within to get through this day.
Yeah, you have to
And that's
control it, because
absolutely.
it'll control you if
It'll control you.
Absolutely.
It'll control and immerse you and keep you locked in it.
Oh, absolutely. And and that's where addiction started. I'll have a drink, I have a glass of
Yes,
wine to eat, to calm me down, and then that turns into a
absolutely.
bottle. And then the next thing you know, it's 5 years later and you're a raging alcoholic from the trauma that you haven't healed from 5 years ago. And that's from any trauma. So at what point did you, because once you rebuilt your life, got the house and the job and car and kid and all that stuff, blah, blah. At what point did you start an actual healing journey? Because you were dealing with trauma. So at what point did you go, okay, I still have this trauma and I need to like heal or deal with this and heal. So what did your healing journey look like? How did you heal from that trauma, and what did that journey look like?
So I did a lot of writing, a lot of journaling. I also obviously did some crisis counseling with the people that they put in that. I felt that was important, for natural disaster counseling.
Nice.
I felt that was important, very important, because I knew I was in a very, like we discussed earlier, I'm adopted as well. So I feel like my whole life has been a healing journey.
Right.
And I've embraced that. I'm not on medication. I don't drink. I've really empowered myself in ways where I could have gone down different paths. So I feel like my whole life's been a healing journey, but I took the help. And that's an important thing for people to realize too. When we are out of our depth, it's okay to receive the help. It's okay to say, I need some support. And that was the first stepping stone for me.
Good.
And then, lots of journaling, lots of feeling, compartmentalizing. And then I went on to do the Lifeline counseling, which I feel me helping others helped me.
Nice.
What I did do, one of the most incredible things I did do, and my ex-husband Andreas helped me with this. He knew my passion for animals, and it was there was so much wildlife burnt. I mean, Australia's full of wildlife. That's our koalas and so where I lived on the top of a mountain place called Rawson, a southern wildlife ash shelter, a lovely lady, Colleen, her whole life's dedicated to koalas and helping them. So Andreas relentlessly said to her, I've got to get my partner up here. She must, because I'd done wildlife in the past, she's got to get up here. So every Saturday I would get up and I would drive up to the top of that mountain. And again, it was what was happening down the bottom of that mountain didn't exist. I would rake up koala poo, I would change gum, I would change the water, and I would see the devastation of what was happening to the bandages on these koalas and how vulnerable they were, these wild koalas, and then seeing their rehabilitation and be released back into the wild was probably one of the most healing parts of it all for me.
I love that.
It really
That's
was
beautiful. And that's funny because, and I talked about this in my live this morning, part of my healing journey, from one of my traumas that I suffered was volunteering. I went and volunteered with the homeless people. And that was a huge part of my healing journey because I immersed myself in helping others. And that's what brought me joy and gave me hope. Like, oh, I think I have a purpose. I think there's something larger for me here than to just wallow in my pity and oh my god, because I lost everything too, right? Not in a fire, but I was starting from zero, from the ground up, and volunteering was a huge
because what it does is our events we often will internalize, but if we give beyond ourselves, then it makes sense. It doesn't make sense logically, it just makes sense on an energetic level to give beyond ourselves, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I love that. That's great. So, if you had to, I love your story and that's incredible. And as we were talking before I clicked the live and record button. So you had to flee and you lost everything and left everything and you had to start all over. And I was telling you how this could also relate to any women or anybody who has to leave their house or an abusive relationship or have to leave with nothing but just your child. And
many women have.
And many women, and your toothbrush, maybe you've even forgotten your toothbrush and you're just escaping and you're running, that you can rebuild your life. It's hard. It's not going to be easy, but people are more than willing to help, and there is help, and it is possible. But I think
there is help, but I think the most important thing is never underestimate your own human spirit. Never underestimate what you are capable of, that inner strength and courage, no matter what you face, no matter what challenge you have. That human spirit is incredible. It goes far beyond.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. And I just want to touch upon that you are actually a healer now, aren't you?
Yes.
You do. So you do healing. So do you help people heal from trauma as well? Is that what you do now?
Absolutely. So I do. So I did lifeline counseling for crisis initially, and I did that for many years. And then I realized I wanted to branch out into helping people before they get to crisis. Okay. So a bit of prevention and a bit of intervention there. So I read an article on hypnotherapy and I was sold. That was 14 years ago and I've never looked back. I've helped hundreds of people, even just with day-to-day things, like just this, just the smallest thing like quitting smoking, how much of a ripple effect that can have to quit smoking. Then you go on to feel healthier, you love yourself more, you're more confident, you've got more money. So those life-changing things just from that one change. And now I've stepped into training people in the field as well. But yeah, I've helped many, not even only women, because I think we're very quick to say that women flee. I know a lot of men that have been in domestic situations where they've had to go as well. So it's about there's no one size fits all, is there? But to be able to cross over from surviving and stepping into knowing that we can thrive, that's a piece of magic to be able to share with people that they're capable of doing that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are afraid. You have to take that first step. You have to wake up one morning and decide, this is the day I have to, I can't stay in this dark place anymore. I've got to take that first step. And that first step is the hardest in the whole wide world. It really is. But you can't, because it's easy to stay in, it's comfortable in this dark place. I'm just going to stay here another day.
Well, it's comfortable, but it imprisons you in the end, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
Your comfort zone imprisons you.
Of course it does.
And the first step is always the decision.
But it's so hard.
Always that decision to say, I want different. I must have different. I deserve more.
I deserve. That's it. That's the word right there. I deserve better, and I deserve more for me. If I have a child or whatever, my family, whatever, I deserve more for me. I love that. That's amazing. So if you and I'm going to, when I get over to Facebook, for those of you that are here, we're not ignoring you. We can't see your comments. When we get over there, I'm going to drop your link to your hypnotherapy, but I just want to close. If you had to give one piece of advice to women or men who are starting over or have to start over or are afraid of taking that step to leave in order to start over or whatever, what is your one solid gold piece of advice that you would give somebody to give them that push to just go? What's your advice?
Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself that you can do it. It doesn't matter. Like from where I have come from way back there, I've got my own business, I've got my family, I've got an incredible support crew. I support people, but to believe in yourself in the most hardest and darkest of moments that you can do it. That's the gold nugget.
You just ooze confidence. I can feel that from over here. I don't know what your trauma was, because I've got a slew of my own, but I can just feel your confidence, and I
have rebuilt myself from the inside out, and if I can do it, anyone can.
And and that's the thing right there. And I always tell everybody, if I can do this, anybody can, because I don't feel like, and everybody thinks that, oh, well, no, you're strong and you're special and you can do this too.
Absolutely.
You just gotta find that little thing inside of you that says, come on, let's do this. Come on.
And that intuition our intuition, even in the darkest moments, even more so in our darkest moments, the intuition is working.
And
So to
don't
be
ignore
aware,
it. Yeah, like don't
ignore
ignore it.
it.
Don't. And everybody's, oh no, no, I can't. I'm scared. No, no, not now, not today. No, no, no. Stop
Yeah.
saying no and start saying yes to your intuition. Going, okay, let's do today. We're going to do this. Let's go.
Yes.
You know what I
Feel the
mean?
fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So
Yeah.
I love your story. I love your confidence and your enthusiasm. You are
Thank you.
just like a ray of, I think you're a great spokeswoman for people
Thank
of
you.
trauma. Yeah, I really do. I really loved this interview. I mean, not
Oh,
just that I
thank you
didn't
so
love the
much.
other ones, but I really loved this one. This was great, very empowering.
Thank you. I hope it helps people out there. The ripple effect of you know, just someone hearing one line of something that can go on and help their life, then it's all worth it.
Absolutely. That's, you nailed it 100%. Thank you so much. I'm going to go back into the thread in Facebook and drop your link.
Yes.
Or if you want to go and do that yourself, you can go to the thread and drop, because you have your links ready and available.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can drop your link to your hypnotherapy and all of that stuff. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I truly appreciate you. And please keep in touch. Like, don't disappear off the planet from me. I want to stay in touch.
Absolutely. Take care. Thank you for having me.
Eileen. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.